It is Tuesday morning, the 11th of September, and you will not forget this date.
Unconfirmed reports this morning that a plane has crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center.
There's a huge wall of smoke coming from that direction.
Some days it seems like it was yesterday. Some days it seems like it was, you know, ancient history type. There's, for most guys, they'll tell you, you know, it could be a sound, it could be a smell. Something will trigger it, and it feels like you're right back there.
But it is interesting to now have that third dimension, you know, to have been there personally and seen the breadth and the width of it.
The first fire I responded to was September 11th.
I got to work a little, well, 8:45. Plane hit the Trade Center. I was working in Brooklyn, Snyder Avenue and 5-1. Got dressed, tones went off, we went to Manhattan, got relocated that day to 55 engine. 55 engine wound up losing everybody.
I was working in Engine 80 up on 139th Street. I happened to be working Monday night into Tuesday, and somebody said over the PA, you know, the plane hit, you know, the towers. So first impressions was just a small tourist, you know, Cessna type plane, and but you know, as we all know, that that's not really true.
That morning I was getting off of work. I just happened to be my oldest daughter's first day in preschool. So I was trying to rush home to get there. As I left, heard the towers got hit. I called the firehouse. They said, you got to turn around and come back.
You know, I went to go take something off the rig, and he was like, don't bother, take a set of irons. You know, I went to go take hose. He's like, we're not putting this out. You know what I mean? We're basically helping people. And by the time I got about 100 maybe 150 feet away, the building came down. Ducked into a building, you know, so we didn't get caught in that cloud. Building just came down straight down, like you see it on TV. You know, either you were under it or you weren't.
I got down there just after the second building came down, so we commandeered a city bus, kind of emptied the firehouse of extra tools and equipment and manpower, and then we headed down.
And as we got down there, both the towers were collapsed, and the first thing I thought is how many of our guys are in that building.
You know, there was no real injuries that day. It was either you were dead or alive, and that's the kind of way it went down.
We were ready to go into the towers if it wasn't for the third plane, and we were held back, and that's what saved us.
Then I do remember going in there. I'm like in a rush to get in there to help people, see if we're going to save people, but there was really no one left to save. I mean, that was the hard part, is like nobody was saved. Everyone was gone. My neighbor comes banging on my door. He goes, crying in tears, my son is missing. He was a worker in one of the South Tower, and he perished in the collapse. And I just remember him every day when I come home. Did you hear anything? Did you see anything? You know, that really puts a face on it, you know, to see how it affects other people's families, like every day.
The days and the weeks and the months after were tough to get through. We would either be working down there doing recoveries, or working in your firehouse, or at a funeral. That was basically what your life came down to. We've now lost more first responders due to 9/11 illnesses than were killed that day. Total, like from fire department, police department, EMS, Port Authority, and all the civilians in the building. We've lost more.
Never forget is a unique phrase, and sometimes in my own head I try to turn it around to always remember.
The sacrifices made, what people went through, how people banded together and overcame that, the soldiers that fought for the people who died. Those are the things you shouldn't forget.
Like, people want to say, wow, you know, thank you. We didn't do it. The guys that died were the guys that we can't ever forget.
You know, they didn't hesitate. They ran into those buildings. They knew, you know, even after there was confirmation that the first tower went down, that there was you know, this one is possibly going to go. But instead of turning around, they still went up the stairs to see if they could get more people out. You know, that's what should never be forgotten.
So for me, it's impossible to forget.
And as parents and as adults, we need to keep reminding them that freedom isn't free. We got to fight for it. And unfortunately, we have to fight for it. Can you believe that? But that's where we are in society today. In general, everybody in general just takes for granted, you know, takes for granted people. You know, we're all here together.
That day, it was the greatest rescue ever. There was 25,000 civilians that were rescued out of that building. You know, nearly 3,000 did perish, but 25,000 were saved. And the efforts, what they did, they didn't stop. They kept going. They kept going as high as they could, you know, to get more people out. That's what should be taken away from it.
In today's society, not just related to 9/11, but volunteerism and even just involvement in organizations, I think sometimes attendance is waning, whether it's a Little League or Boy Scouts or church groups. Unfortunately, you know, we've just become so busy. But even on a, you know, for whatever the reason, whether they're particularly in need or just you know, just a thumbs up or a smile, I think it goes a long way.
If you wear a ribbon or anything, it shows support, because it's not about first responders or even military. I mean, like I said, all these families that lost loved ones too suffered dearly, tremendously.
You just have to want to do it. It's a selfless act. You know, you don't want to be patted on the back or told you're doing a great thing. You should know you're doing a great thing and want to be able to donate your time.
You know, anybody can be patriotic, and it's, you know, is there a definition of it? Yeah, there's a definition in the book, but, you know, patriotism is just, it could be doing something, like you said, you could be military, you could be a first responder, you could just go down the block and help your neighbor. That's patriotic. You know, just looking out for others, doing the right thing.